High levels of immigration to the UK are making it impossible to build a cohesive society. That is what the Home Secretary Theresa May is expected to tell the Conservative Party conference later today. She'll say that mass migration strains public services like schools and hospitals, that it drives down wages and pushes some people out of work. David Cameron has said Britain benefits from migration, but that more controls are needed.
We have built one of the most successful multiracial, multi-ethnic democracies anywhere on earth. And it's something we should be incredibly proud of. And that requires us to maintain the stance of being a country that is open to talent and people coming here and building a life here. But immigration should mean controlled immigration. And the point that Theresa's making is that if the numbers get too great, it becomes more difficult to build the cohesive and integrated multiracial, multi-faith society that we want to see.
Well, that was the Prime Minister speaking on breakfast just a little earlier this morning. Let's find out what more might be expected in Manchester. Our assistant political editor, Norman Smith, is there. Have you just arrived?
Jane, well, so much of this conference has been about the Northern Powerhouse. I was just kind of scratching my head, saying, OK, where can we go for a symbol of the North? And I kind of thought, well, I can go and stand in front of a Lowry painting, I can go and wander around Old Trafford, or I can come to a tram. So I've come to the tram depot in Manchester, actually just under the shadow of Old Trafford, because they've had trams in Manchester, well, I don't know, since Victorian times. And I thought we'd just debate about how this whole northern powerhouse idea actually plays with people, because we heard George Osborne yesterday saying, look, I was born a Londoner and I thought if it wasn't happening in London, it wasn't happening anywhere. Now I live in the north, my constituency is in the north, and I've changed. But how does all that go down with northerners? Well, I'm joined by two here. Emily Ashton, the political correspondent from BuzzFeed, brought up in the Wirral, no less. Phillip Blond from the think tank Res Publica, brought up in Liverpool. I mean, let me just start with a very, very basic question. When George Osborne says, you know, all this stuff about the northern powerhouse, as northerners, how do you react, Emily?
I think he's going to have to do a little bit more than just say a phrase, the Northern Powerhouse. If he really wants to connect with people from the north, he talks about being a Northern MP, but being MP for Tatton isn't quite the same as a lot of people.
Why? What's wrong with Tatton?
Well, Tatton's a very nice place, but there are other places in the north that aren't quite as wealthy and leafy.
OK, Philip, he's a sort of ersatz northerner in the suburbs.
Well, I think the thing we have to say is, look, the North has been ignored for 20, 30, 40 years, and everybody recognises that. And actually, it's been abandoned by the Labour Party nationally, but locally you have brilliant Labour councillors who have been just crying out for attention. I remember one very prominent Labour council leader said, I asked him, what do you want from the general election? He said, a Labour victory, but George Osborne to be Chancellor. And what he's actually done is actually created options and an opportunity for the North. He's created attention, he's talked about infrastructure. The danger for him is he has to deliver. A northern powerhouse doesn't sit very easily with austerity. We've got HS2 that is cutting off large parts of the cities. It needs to connect with Liverpool, it needs to connect with Sheffield, it needs to go east-west. So he really needs to deliver investment, and the trouble is it's not clear the money's there to do that.
OK, Emily, I mean, it is clear the Tories have a problem in the north. Why is that?
I think a lot of people up here feel that investment is focused in the southeast. Philip's talking about HS2. People are frustrated that people are talking about London-Birmingham, that route, rather than the route across the Pennines, which people really think is desperately needed. And all the little bits of, not little to some people, but railways, say from the Wirral into Liverpool, that could be improved. That's what really the Tories really need to grasp. And also the concept of the north isn't very helpful either. People don't think of themselves as being from the north. I feel like I'm from the northwest. I'm sure you do as well. It's very different to Yorkshire. To think about the north as a concept isn't quite right.
And let me suggest to you, Philip, that the risk is, it sounds almost as if George Osborne is sort of donning a metaphorical cloth cap and running around with a whippet. It sounds, or has the potential, frankly, to sound a bit patronising.
Well, I think it might do, but at least attention is being paid. You know, if you look at the figures, actually, 60% of people nationally don't like the Tory party, according to Ipsos Mori. In the north, it rises to 68%. So they've got a hell of an uphill battle to fight. But the point is if they can drive forward investment, and that's why the announcement yesterday about the rates and the ability to reinvest offers such hope, because these councils like Liverpool, Manchester, Hull, Sheffield can build themselves out of depression now. They at last have the tax ability to invest. And I think coupled with more national investment, because you're quite right, if you actually look at the figures, in the North East it's £250 per head transport investment. London it's £1,700. We've got to see massive shifts of money to the north to actually enable it to catch up and rebalance the nation.
Emily, can the north ever be for the Tories what sort of the leafy suburbs of the home counties is, or a doomed cause, frankly?
I think it's going to take a bit of time, but they really need to focus up here. And I think that's what they're doing by saying we're the party of Labour and the party of work, and it's absolutely right. But partly it's to do with personality as well. And George Osborne and David Cameron at the top perhaps doesn't help that. You need more northern accents in that cabinet.
Okay, guys, thanks very much for your time. Jane, I should tell you I am the last person to talk about the North because I'm a born and bred Londoner, brought up in the old smoke, doing a bit of ducking and diving on the telly now. Not quite, but you get my drift.
I certainly do. I think we all do, Norman. Now, I've just been sent a message to say that we must have a quick chat about Liz Truss. Now, I am completely bemused by this. I trust you know a little bit more about it than I do. She's been just talking to conference saying that we must all learn the proper names for animals. Please explain.
You're confused. I am mega confused. Liz Truss yesterday suggested that children basically needed to learn the proper names for animals and trees. And I was just discussing it with Emily and Philip. We're all kind of scratching our heads. What on earth does she mean? Because we all know a pig is a pig and a cow is a cow and a horse is a horse. And does she mean maybe we have to learn the Latin names? I've no idea what the Latin name for an elephant is. Elephantus maximus or something. I don't know. Very, very bizarre. I have really no idea what she is talking about. And I've not been able to get hold of her, so I guess we'll have to wait till we can actually ask her.
All right. Well, I look forward to it. Thank you very much. Norman Smith at the Conservative Party conference. Thank you.